Holding a grudge is like taking poison and hoping someone else will die. Holding a grudge is the opposite of forgiveness. And forgiveness is the topic of our module for today. So we're going to begin with what forgiveness is not. Forgiveness is not letting others off the hook. Forgiveness does not mean putting yourself in a position to be taken advantage of. Forgiveness is not condoning the other person's negative behavior or their inappropriate behavior. Your own behavior, because I forgive, does not mean that I accept the other person's behavior or say that it's okay. Forgiveness is not pretending that everything is just fine when you feel it isn't. Forgiveness is not assuming an attitude of superiority or self-righteousness. And forgiveness does not mean you will or must change your behavior. For example, if I forgive an old friend from whom I have been estranged, I don't have to start calling them again, unless I really want to. Forgiveness does not require that you verbally communicate directly with the person you have forgiven, although you may choose to behave differently. Forgiveness requires only a shift in your perception, another way of looking at people and circumstances that you feel have caused you upset and pain. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting. Forgiveness, for the most part, is a change in how I act towards other people and the feelings that I have towards that person. Not forgiving is holding on to pain, and forgiving is letting go of the pain. So I'm going to pause right here and encourage you to be aware during the next few weeks of your thoughts regarding others' behavior. Notice if you choose not to forgive because of one of the beliefs that I just expressed about what forgiveness is not. As you pay attention to your thoughts, take a piece of paper and write down some of the things that you discover about yourself. Now let's turn to what forgiveness is. I'm going to make some radical statements for a few minutes about forgiveness, and then I'll discuss each one of them in further detail. Forgiveness means that I stop blaming others for my present feelings, for my present behavior, for my present problems, and start taking responsibility for who I am, how I feel, how I respond, and the situation that I find myself in. Another person may have done terrible things to me, but I choose how I will continue to respond to that thing that was done. Letting go of an accusing emotion is the same as forgiveness. As I said before, forgiveness is not letting others off the hook for their bad behavior, nor does it mean that I put myself in a place to be taken advantage of. So to reiterate that, forgiveness is not about what others do to me. Forgiveness is how I treat others. Forgiveness is a charged word. Everyone seems to have a different opinion about what it means. To some, it's a religious commandment that sounds okay in theory, but is difficult to put into practice. It calls forth images of Jesus dying on the cross, looking compassionately at his tormentors as he says, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Some people relate very positively to this image. To others, it seems like giving away responsibility, like becoming a victim. Forgiveness means accepting the core of every human being as the same as myself and giving them the gift of not judging them. Forgiveness in this sense looks a lot like love. You can be clear about whether or not a person's behavior is acceptable without judging or condemning the person. Psychologists, for example, caution parents never to criticize their child, only the child's behavior. "You are stupid" is a very different statement from "your behavior is not acceptable to me." If a person knows that you respect and value him or her, your comments about their behavior are more welcome. If, however, you are attacking the person's character, no comment, no matter how perceptive, will likely be listened to. Forgiveness starts with yourself and extends to others. That means that you accept the core of your own being as valuable and worthwhile, and that you see other people as valuable and worthwhile, even if their behavior is bad. Forgiveness is a decision. It is a choice to see beyond the relative judgments of your self-protection in order to see that another's insensitivity and unwelcome behavior is an expression of their fear. And all fear, at the bottom line, is a call for help, acknowledgement, respect, and love. Forgiveness is a choice to see beyond another's bad behavior and mistakes, to see that at their core, they are just trying to grow. Forgiveness is an attitude that implies that you are willing to accept responsibility for your perceptions, realizing that your perceptions are a choice and not an objective fact. A consequence of accepting that your perceptions are a choice is that as you change your perceptions, your emotional reactions will change as well. In place of the angry man you saw attacking you 5 minutes ago, you may now see a frustrated and scared little boy. It is most often the wounded or frightened child in another who is responsible for their lack of caring or mature judgment. All people who did not have their basic need for love, understanding, and comfort met as a child will have a wounded child that lives within them. This wounded inner child remains a driving force in adult behavior until it is recognized and healed. Forgiving enables you to see the wounded child in others, to see past their conditioning, to see the call for help and the request for love and the respect that is underneath, and for you to respect that which is underneath their insensitive behavior. Forgiveness challenges you to establish boundaries and take action when it is called for, all while keeping your heart open to the wounded child in others. Forgiveness teaches me that I can resolutely disagree with someone without withdrawing my love. That is, I can show respect for them as a person and for their core wants, while disapproving of their behavior. Each time you understand another in this context of their fears, you are more able, as the meaning of the word forgive implies, to let go, to release, and to cease harboring the past. It is important to remember that it is your feelings that you are letting go, not the responsibility of the other person for their behavior. During the next week, when someone is irritating you, hurting you, step back in your mind and understand the person from the pain he or she is experiencing. What fears does he or she have? What is he or she asking for? The asking behavior may be in a form that is difficult to respond to. Nonetheless, try to figure it out. Find out what the person is calling out for. A cry for acknowledgement, for respect, for love, for security. Then find a way to step around the annoying or hurtful behavior to help the person meet their need. Write down your experiences as you have them. When you're seeing beyond the behavior to the person's cry for help, you are responding in a forgiving attitude. Now, to finish up this discussion on forgiveness, let's talk about some misconceptions about forgiveness. There are several misconceptions about forgiveness that I'd like to discuss, and we're going to start with myth 1. I still remember what happened, so that means I haven't forgotten. The reality is that your brain is programmed to remember in order for you to learn and to protect yourself. There's a difference between occasionally remembering an event and continually ruminating on it. Once you forgive, you don't need to continually thinking about and analyzing the event. Myth 2. If I forgive, then I give up the protection I have against those who hurt me. Holding on to pain and hurt sometimes helps victims feel more secure. That is, they think holding the hurt will protect them from getting hurt again. By withholding forgiveness, you may protect the wound, but you also won't heal from the wound because you are constantly thinking about the hurt and reopening the wound. If the person who hurt you hasn't changed, protecting yourself does not mean you have not forgiven. Myth 3. If I forgive, then I have to admit that what happened was acceptable in some way. Forgiveness is about how you treat the offender. It is not wiping away the offense. To forgive, you must first acknowledge that what happened was wrong and caused you and maybe others pain. You pardon the fault because you, too, are imperfect. You understand the offender acts out of pain, but he or she needs to learn a better way of expressing his or her wounds. To forgive is not to condone. We do not rationalize bad behavior or allow others to mistreat us because of their struggles, pains, or weaknesses. Myth 4. If I forgive, then I must bring the perpetrator of the hurt back into my life with open arms. Forgiveness and trust are two different things. You can forgive without developing a trusting relationship. If someone continually hurts you, you can forgive, but you are also responsible to set boundaries and keep yourself safe. Forgiveness means understanding the other's pain and not treating him or her badly while protecting yourself. And myth 5. I cannot forgive. The offender has not repented or changed their behavior. Forgiveness is not earned, it is forgiven. Regardless of how unrepentant or unchanging a person is, you can forgive and move forward and find peace. To forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover that the prisoner was me. During this coming week, when you experience behavior that might need forgiveness, notice if you use one of these myths to judge, the myths that I just stated, to justify not forgiving. Write some notes to learn more about yourself. The writing is important. If you don't write it, it goes away. Take some notes about what you observe in your thoughts and feelings, as well as the cries for help that you discover in others.